Haley was standing beside our parents' anniversary cake when she decided to take credit for fixing the problem she'd caused. She had one hand around a glass of champagne, the other rested on our mother's shoulder. About 40 people were gathered in my parents' backyard, including relatives, neighbors, and several people who sent real estate clients to my sister. Haley smiled across the patio at me. "Honestly, the house almost didn't close," she said. "There was this ridiculous paperwork mix-up. Thank goodness Natalie had someone in the family who knew how to untangle it." A few people laughed. One of Haley's agents raised his glass to her. My father looked pleased. My mother looked at the ground. I was holding a glass of iced tea. I set it down because the condensation was making my fingers slippery. Then I said, "Go ahead, Haley. Explain the mix-up." Her smile stayed in place, but her eyes changed. "My name is Natalie Lawrence, and I'm 33. If you've ever been asked to stay quiet so someone else could look innocent, you'll understand this. Please like the video and subscribe." 6 weeks before that party, I had still believed my family's worst habit was favoritism. I knew Haley could take over any room. I knew my parents would protect her from almost anything. What I didn't know was how far all three of them had already gone. The house at the center of this belonged to my grandmother, Teresa Lawrence. It stood on Huntington Street in Savannah, on a block where the sidewalks buckle around old tree roots and the houses sit close enough for neighbors to track your visitors without trying. My grandparents bought it in 1978. My grandfather died years before any of this happened. My grandmother stayed. The house had pale green siding, black shutters, and a narrow porch that always needed painting. There was a long garden behind it with camellias along the brick wall. My grandmother could tell when rain was coming by the way the leaves turned. I never believed her until I moved in. She left the house solely to me in her will. That caused a problem before the funeral flowers had wilted. Haley assumed we would split it. My father assumed I would sell it and split the money. My mother kept saying Grandma must have been confused. She wasn't. In 2016, 3 years before her death, Grandma updated her will. She also wrote me a private letter and left it with the papers. I was 23 then, but I didn't know about either document. Grandma never mentioned them. She just kept asking me to help with small things around the house. I replaced smoke detector batteries. I drove her to the pharmacy. I carried soil to the garden. I sat at her kitchen table and sorted mail into piles she could understand. Haley visited too, but Haley arrived like a guest. She brought flowers, took pictures, and left before anything needed cleaning. Grandma noticed that difference. She rarely commented on it. The letter explained more. I read it after her death in 2019, sitting in the office of the probate attorney. I was 26. Grandma had died at 81. Her letter was folded behind the will. "Natalie, you have cared for this house without treating it like a prize. I believe you will know when to keep it and when to let it go. Do not let anyone make you feel guilty for receiving what I chose to give. Love, Grandma Teresa." That was all. No speech about Haley, no list of family failures. Grandma didn't need many words. I kept the letter in a wooden keepsake box at home. I told nobody about it except Emily Rice, my best friend. My father knew the letter existed because the attorney mentioned it. He never asked what it said. I think he preferred to believe Grandma had made a sentimental mistake. At the attorney's office, he stared at the will and said, "This doesn't seem fair." The attorney said, "It is properly executed." Dad turned to me. "You'll make it fair, though." It wasn't phrased like a question. Haley sat beside him in a cream-colored dress. She had cried through most of the meeting, but her eyes were dry by then. She said, "I don't want to talk about money today." Then she asked the attorney how quickly the deed would transfer. That was Haley. She knew how to sound above the conversation while controlling it. My mother waited until we reached the parking lot. "We should all take a breath," she said. "Your sister is grieving." "So am I," I said. "I know. That's why I don't want anyone making permanent decisions. The decision is already in the will." Mom pressed her lips together. "You know what I mean?" I did know. Haley's feelings were treated like an emergency. Mine were treated like something I should manage privately. That had been true for most of our lives. Even as adults, the pattern held. When Haley earned her real estate broker's license in 2014, my parents threw a dinner for nearly 30 people. Dad rented a private room at an Italian restaurant. Mom ordered a cake shaped like a house key. When I earned my CPA license in 2017, Mom sent me a card. Dad called 2 days late. He said, "Sorry, kiddo. Your sister had a closing fall apart." I remember standing outside the testing center with my phone against my ear. I'd spent months studying before work and on weekends. My hands were still trembling from seeing that I passed. I said, "It's okay." I used those words too often with them. My fingerprints had been taken during the licensing process. At the time, it felt like one more administrative task. I filled out forms, submitted identification, and moved on. 9 years later, that fingerprint record mattered more than my family expected. I didn't know that yet. After Grandma died, I moved into the Huntington Street house. I told myself it would be temporary. Then the pandemic happened. Work became strange, and temporary stretched into years. I'm a forensic accountant. Most people hear that and imagine dramatic fraud investigations. Usually it means long spreadsheets, awkward meetings, and asking why the same invoice was paid twice. I like orderly work. Numbers don't get offended when you verify them. The house suited me. It was quiet, mostly. The pipes knocked in winter. The front windows rattled during storms. Every few months, something old and expensive needed attention. I repaired the porch steps. I replaced part of the roof. I had the electrical panel updated. I paid the taxes and insurance. My parents still talked about the house as if it belonged to all of us. Dad would say, "How's our old place?" It was never his old place. It had belonged to his parents, then to me. Haley was worse. Whenever she came over, she pointed out what she would change. You could turn the back room into a luxury primary suite. You need lighter paint if you ever want decent listing photos. This kitchen is killing the value. I usually handed her coffee and let her talk. That changed in March of 2026. Haley called on a Sunday afternoon and asked me to come to my parents' house. She said Dad wanted help reviewing something financial. That wasn't unusual. Dad was retired and he hated online banking. Mom had retired from teaching and still printed every bill. I drove over after lunch with my laptop. Haley's car was already in the driveway. She drove a white luxury SUV that looked newly washed even during pollen season. Inside, my parents were sitting at the dining room table. No papers were spread out. No laptop was open. Haley stood near the window. Dad said, "Close the door." I did. Mom offered me coffee. I declined. Then Haley said, "I have an opportunity and I need short-term liquidity." That was exactly how she put it. I set my laptop bag on the floor. How short-term? Maybe 4 months? How much? She looked at Dad before answering. $85,000. I thought I had misheard. For what? A property deal? What property? It's complicated. Then explain it. Haley crossed her arms. I don't need an audit, Natalie. You asked a forensic accountant for $85,000. No, I asked my sister. Dad leaned forward. This isn't a work meeting. I know. At work, people bring documents. Mom said, don't start. I looked around the table. Does anyone have the address of this property? Haley picked up her phone, but she didn't unlock it. It's a flip I'm finishing. The numbers changed. How? Contractor problems. Carrying costs. A buyer backed out. Those were possible problems. Haley had been flipping houses on the side for years. Some did well. She talked about those constantly. The losses disappeared from conversation. I asked, "What's the current debt?" She sighed. "This is why I didn't want to ask you. You're asking for more than most people earn in a year. It's secured." "By what?" "The finished property. Then borrow against it through a bank." She glanced at Mom. Mom said, "A bank would take too long." "How long do you have?" Haley answered too quickly. "Not long." That was when I noticed a yellow legal pad in front of Dad. On it, he had written $85,000, then drawn a line underneath. Below that was the address of Grandma's house. I reached across and turned the pad toward me. Why is Huntington Street written here? Dad pulled the pad back. We were considering options. What options? He looked irritated, as if I had interrupted him. You have considerable equity sitting in that house. That equity is mine. Nobody said it wasn't. You wrote my address under Haley's loan amount. Mom folded a paper napkin into a smaller square. She said, "We thought you could borrow against the house. Just temporarily." I looked at Haley. She kept her eyes on the window. "Is that why I'm here?" Dad said. "We're discussing how family helps family." "No, you decided what I should do before I arrived. You haven't even heard the whole proposal." "There isn't a proposal. There's no address, no budget, no repayment schedule, and no explanation." Haley finally looked at me. "I would pay you interest." "With what money?" Her face tightened. "That's insulting. It's a basic question. You always do this." "Do what? Make people feel stupid," Dad said. "Enough, Natalie." Of course he said my name. I picked up my laptop bag. Mom looked alarmed. "You're leaving?" "Yes." "We haven't finished talking." "I have." Haley stepped away from the window. "So that's it?" "That's it. You won't even think about it?" "I have thought about it. For 30 seconds. No, Haley. I've thought about lending money without documents for years. The answer is no." Dad pushed his chair back. "Your grandmother didn't leave you that house so you could sit on it while your sister struggles." Nobody spoke for a moment. I felt the strap of my laptop bag digging into my shoulder. Grandma left it to me because she wanted me to decide what happened to it. Mom said, "Your father is upset." I can see that. She gave me the look she used when I was expected to fix the room. I didn't. I left. Haley called twice that night. I let both calls go to voicemail. Her first message was soft. "Natalie, this got blown out of proportion. Call me when you've calmed down." The second was less careful. "I hope you remember this conversation the next time you need something." I saved both messages, not because I expected a crime. I saved financial conversations by habit. 3 weeks later, I listed the house for sale. The decision wasn't about punishing them. I had been considering it for more than a year. The repairs were constant and I wanted something smaller. My office was across town. The garden had become more work than I could manage alone. I didn't list with Haley. That became its own family crisis. I hired a broker named Marianne Carter. She specialized in older Savannah homes and had no connection to my sister's firm. Haley found the listing online before I told her. She called while I was buying groceries. "You listed Grandma's house?" "Yes." "With Marianne Carter?" "Yes." "You didn't think to call me?" "I knew what you would say. You denied me the listing out of spite. I wanted somebody independent." "Independent of what?" I moved my cart aside so another shopper could pass. "Family." Haley laughed once. "You think strangers care about you more than I do? This is a business transaction. That's rich coming from you. What does that mean? You refused to help me, then listed an asset worth hundreds of thousands through a competitor. It's my house. I know it's your house. You say that every 5 minutes. Then why are we arguing?" She went quiet. I could hear a car door close near her. Finally, she said, "Dad is going to be heartbroken. He can call me." "Oh, he will." He did. Dad told me selling was reckless. Mom said the house was our last connection to Grandma. Neither offered to help maintain it. When I accepted an offer in April, I emailed them the expected closing date. Nobody replied. The buyers were a married couple moving from Atlanta. They loved the garden. During the second showing, I watched from my car while they stood near Grandma's camellias with Marianne. The woman touched one of the leaves and smiled. That helped. The contract moved normally. There was an inspection, a repair request, and an appraisal. Craig Moss handled the closing. He was a real estate attorney in Savannah and had been practicing long enough that very little surprised him. A week before closing, Craig emailed preliminary figures. After the mortgage payoff, taxes, fees, and commission, the rest of the sale proceeds would come to me. Nothing on the statement mentioned $85,000. The morning of closing, I woke before my alarm. I packed the last items from Grandma's kitchen. One chipped blue bowl went into the donation box. Her handwritten recipe cards went into my car. The keepsake box with her letter sat on the passenger seat. Closing was scheduled for 3 that afternoon. I planned to sign, hand over the keys, then meet Emily for dinner. At 10:14 that morning, Craig called. I was sweeping the empty dining room. "Hi, Craig. Natalie, are you at the property?" "Yes. Can you sit down?" I leaned the broom against the wall. "What happened? We can't close today." The room felt suddenly louder. The refrigerator was humming behind me. Why? Our final title update found a security deed recorded against the property. That's impossible. It was recorded several weeks ago. For how much? He paused. $85,000. I sat in Grandma's old dining chair. Who filed it? The deed says you borrowed the money. The named lien holders are John Lawrence and Deborah Lawrence. For a second, I thought there must be another John and Deborah Lawrence. Then Craig read their address. It was my parents' house. I said, "I never borrowed money from them. I need to ask this plainly. Did you sign any document using the Huntington Street property as security?" "No." "Did you authorize anyone to sign for you?" "No." "Do your parents have any legitimate claim against the house?" "No." Craig lowered his voice. "The document has a notarized signature under your name." I looked toward the front windows. A delivery truck moved slowly past the house. "Send it to me. I can email the image, but I want a certified copy pulled." "I'll go." "You don't have to do that personally." "Yes, I do." "Natalie, the buyers are being told there's a title delay. Nothing more yet." "How does this stop the sale?" "The lien has to be dealt with before I can transfer clear title. If it were valid, the $85,000 would be paid from the sale proceeds through my trust account." "Paid to my parents?" "Yes." I stood so quickly the chair scraped the floor. Craig kept talking. "Don't contact anyone until we see the document. They're my parents." "I understand." "No, I mean their names are on it." "I know. Go get the certified copy. Then call me." I drove to the Chatham County Courthouse with Grandma's letter still on the passenger seat. At first, I thought it might be a filing error. A scammer could have used public records. Someone could have entered the wrong parcel number. I held on to those explanations because the other possibility didn't fit yet. The clerk helped me locate the recorded security deed in the Superior Court real estate records. I paid for a certified copy and waited beneath fluorescent lights while a printer ran behind the counter. When she handed it to me, the pages were warm. The first page listed the property on Huntington Street. The amount was $85,000. John Lawrence and Deborah Lawrence were named as the people entitled to repayment. My name appeared as the borrower. I turned to the signature page. Someone had signed Natalie Lawrence in handwriting close enough to mine that a stranger might accept it. I stared at it until the loops started looking unfamiliar. Below the signature was a notary stamp, Austin Figueroa. I had never heard that name. A clerk asked, "Ma'am, are you all right?" I looked at the forged signature again. Then I saw the date. It was a day in May when I knew exactly where I had been, and it wasn't anywhere near Savannah. I had been in Atlanta for a fraud conference. I remembered the date because it was the only overnight work trip I had taken that spring. My firm had paid for the hotel. I had checked in the afternoon before and stayed 2 nights. I took out my phone and searched my email. The hotel receipt came up first. It showed a check-in time of 4:37 the previous afternoon. The conference confirmation showed sessions running all day on the date of the deed. That didn't prove I had attended, but I knew I had more. I forwarded the deed to my work email. Then I called Craig from the courthouse hallway. "I have it," I said. "Anything obvious?" "The signature is close, but it isn't mine." "You're certain?" "I'm certain I didn't sign it. I want to compare the handwriting before I say more." "Good. What about the date?" "I was in Atlanta." "Can you prove that?" "I have a hotel receipt and a conference record." There was a short pause. "That's useful." "What happens to the closing?" "The buyers have agreed to wait while we investigate. Their lender will need a new date." "I can't promise how patient they'll be." "How long do we have?" "A few days before they start asking serious questions." "What should I do right now?" "Make copies of everything. Preserve the originals. Don't write on the certified deed. And Natalie, Don't walk into your parents' house waving it around. I wasn't planning to. I know. I still needed to say it. I went back to my car and placed the certified copy inside the folder that held Grandma's letter. Then I sat there with the doors locked. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry yet. My mind had gone very quiet. The amount was the same amount Haley had requested in March. My parents were named as lien holders. My signature had been copied well enough to pass a recording clerk. The document claimed I had appeared before a notary on a day I was in another city. Those facts did not feel accidental when placed together. She didn't ask questions. 10 minutes later, she emailed a report showing every session I had entered. The first scan that morning was at 8:12. The final scan was at 4:46. I had attended a session on internal control failures during the time the deed claimed I was signing away part of my house. I almost laughed when I saw that. Instead, I saved the report in 3 places. That was my first deliberate decision. I wasn't going to call my family and ask them to reassure me. I was going to establish what was true before I gave anyone a chance to explain it away. I drove back to Huntington Street. Most of my files were packed, but the property records were still in a plastic storage bin in the back room. I carried the bin to the kitchen floor and opened it. The house was nearly empty by then. Every sound carried. The air conditioner clicked on, and somewhere inside the wall an old pipe tapped twice. I pulled out the deed that transferred the house to me after probate. Beneath it were insurance forms, contractor agreements, and the paperwork from a home equity application I had started 3 years earlier but never completed. That application had several examples of my signature. I placed it beside the forged deed. At a glance, they looked similar. Whoever had written my name knew the general shape. The capital N leaned forward. The final E in Lawrence curled under. But my real signature moved quickly. Some letters connected because I never lifted the pen. The forged one had pauses. I could see a tiny pool of ink after the T in Natalie. The writer had stopped there. The middle of Lawrence was too careful. My real signature got messier as it went. This one became neater. I took pictures from directly above. Then I opened my laptop and enlarged both signatures. The difference was clearer on the screen. I called Emily. She answered on the second ring. "Aren't you supposed to be closing? It got postponed." "What happened?" "A lien appeared on the house." "What kind of lien?" "A security deed for $85,000. She was quiet. Then she said, "The exact amount?" "Yes." "Who is named?" "My parents." "Oh." That was all she said at first. Emily worked as a paralegal. She knew when a fact needed room. I told her about the signature and the notary. I told her about Atlanta. I sent her photographs while we spoke. She opened them on her computer. "Which one is real?" she asked. "The bottom one." "Then they're not the same." "You see it too?" "Yes." "The top one looks drawn." I sat back on the kitchen floor. Craig told me not to contact anyone until I had copies. And now you have copies. "Yes." "What do you want to do?" "I'm going to call my parents separately." "Why separately?" "To hear what each one says before they coordinate." Emily let out a slow breath. "That sounds like you." "What does that mean?" "It means you already know this isn't a filing mistake." I looked toward the open storage bin. I know the facts don't support a filing mistake. That's the accountant answer. It's the answer I have. "Do you want me there?" "No, not yet. Call me afterward." I promised I would. Before calling my parents, I photographed every page of the certified deed. I also scanned it using my phone and emailed the file to a private account they didn't know about. Then I wrote 3 questions on a legal pad. Did you lend me $85,000? Did you sign or witness this document? Who is Austin Figueroa? I called Mom first. She answered cheerfully. Did the closing go well? The question stopped me. I had told the family the date, but none of them had replied. Still, Mom remembered. It was postponed. Oh no. Why? There's a lien on the house. Silence. Not surprise, just silence. I waited. Finally, she said, "What kind of lien?" "A security deed for $85,000. Another pause. "That sounds like a mistake. Your name is on it." What? You and Dad are listed as the lien holders. That can't be right. Did you lend me $85,000? No. Did you sign any document saying you did? No. Natalie, I don't understand any of this. Her voice was thin now. She spoke faster when she lied, but she also spoke faster when she was frightened. I couldn't tell which one I was hearing. I asked, "Do you know Austin Figueroa?" "Who?" "The notary." "No? Have you ever met him?" "I don't think so." "You don't think so, or you haven't." "Natalie, people meet lots of people. I don't keep a list of every name." I looked at the questions on my pad. "Where were you on the date in May shown on the deed?" "I have no idea. That was weeks ago." "Check your calendar. Why are you interrogating me?" "I'm asking because your name is attached to a forged document on my property." She inhaled sharply. "Forged?" "Yes." "Are you sure?" "I was in Atlanta." Mom lowered her voice. "Have you called your father?" "Not yet. Maybe you should talk to him." "Why?" "He handles financial things. You were a teacher for more than 30 years. You know whether you signed a page." "That isn't what I meant." "What did you mean?" "I mean your father might understand what happened." I wrote that sentence down. Mom heard the pen. "Are you taking notes?" "Yes." "Natalie, don't do that." "Why not?" "Because this is family." I looked at the forged signature on the table. "That's why I'm taking notes." She said my name again, softer this time. Then I ended the call. Dad answered after 5 rings. "What's going on?" "Mom called you. She said you were upset about a title problem. I asked her not to coordinate with you. You don't get to issue orders." "Did you lend me $85,000? "No." "Then why does a recorded deed say you did?" "I haven't seen it." "I can send it." "Send it to the attorney." "The attorney has it. Then let him handle it." "Your name is on the document. Names get entered wrong. Your address is on it too." Dad made a sound like he was clearing his throat. "I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to tell me whether you signed it." "I sign a lot of papers." "This one says I owe you $85,000. I don't remember anything like that. That answer was worse than no. I asked, "Do you know Austin Figueroa?" "No." "Have you met him?" I said no. "Where were you on the signing date?" "What signing date?" I read it to him. He said, "Probably at home." "With Mom?" "How would I know? Check your calendar. I don't keep a calendar like you do. Did Haley visit that day?" His voice changed. It wasn't dramatic. He just answered more slowly. "Why are you bringing her into this?" "The amount matches what she asked me for." "That doesn't mean anything. It means enough to ask. You're reaching. Is Haley involved? You need to stop making accusations before you understand the situation." I stood at the kitchen counter. "What situation? You know what I mean?" "No." "Explain it." He didn't. Instead, he said, "Did the buyer cancel?" "Not yet." "Then there's no emergency. My house has a fraudulent lien on it. You don't know that it's fraudulent. I didn't sign it." He went quiet. I waited long enough to hear the television in the background. Then he said, "Maybe there's an explanation you've forgotten." I didn't answer. Dad had tried to dismiss plenty of things over the years. He had never suggested I might forget borrowing $85,000. He said, "Your mother and I are having dinner at 6. Come over and we'll talk calmly. Will Haley be there?" "I'll call her. Don't tell her what I have." "What do you have?" "A certified copy. That's public record, Natalie. It isn't some secret evidence." "Then don't tell her." He said, "You're being dramatic." I ended the call. Haley didn't answer when I called her office number. She didn't answer her cell either. I left one message. "Haley, a security deed for $85,000 was recorded against my house. Mom and Dad are named as lien holders. Call me." Then I waited. She didn't call. At 5:30, Emily arrived at the house with 2 coffees and a packet of plastic document sleeves. "I know you said you didn't need me," she said. "These are not emotional support sleeves. They're acid-free." I let her in. She read my notes from the calls. She didn't interrupt until she reached Dad's comment about an explanation I had forgotten. "That's strange," she said. "Yes." and your mother asked if you were taking notes. Yes. Did Haley respond? No. Emily placed the notes beside the certified deed. Are you going to dinner? I think so. Why? They asked me to come. That has never been a good enough reason for you to do anything. I took the lid off my coffee. I want to see who tries to control the conversation. Emily nodded. Don't bring the certified copy. I wasn't going to. Bring an ordinary copy. Leave this one with me. I looked at her. You think they might take it? I think people do strange things when paper becomes dangerous. That sentence stayed with me. I put the certified deed in one of her document sleeves. She locked it in the briefcase she used for work. I took a plain photocopy to dinner. Mom had cooked baked chicken, rice, and green beans. It was a meal she made when she wanted everyone to behave normally. Haley's SUV wasn't outside. Dad was already at the table. He had poured himself a glass of wine. Mom said, "Wash your hands. Dinner's ready." I stared at her. We're doing dinner first? Your father hasn't eaten. Dad said, "We can talk while we eat." I sat across from him. Mom took the chair between us. Haley's place was empty. Where is she? I asked. She had a client issue, Dad said. Did you tell her why we're here? I told her there was a problem with the closing, and she said she'd call later. Mom passed me the green beans. I didn't take them. I placed the copied deed on the table. Dad glanced at it but didn't touch it. Mom kept serving rice. I said, "Both of you told me you didn't sign this." "That's right," Dad said. "Then we need to report it." Mom's serving spoon stopped above her plate. Report it to whom? The closing attorney for a start. Then whoever handles a forged recorded deed. Dad picked up his wine. Let's not get carried away. What part is getting carried away? Using words like forged before we know what happened. I know I didn't sign it. Mom put down the spoon. She looked at the copy for the first time. It looks like your signature. The room went still. I said, "You told me you hadn't seen the document." I hadn't. Then how do you know which signature I mean? It's obvious. There are several signatures on that page. Her face changed. Dad reached for the copy. This isn't helping. I kept my hand on the paper. Did Haley bring this document to the house? No, he said. Mom said nothing. I looked at her. Mom? She folded her napkin once, then again. Dad said, "We're not doing this like a courtroom. Then answer me like your daughter." He pushed his plate away. What matters is clearing the title. What matters is finding out who forged my name. Those may not need to be separate problems. I let go of the paper. What does that mean? Dad leaned back. It means there are practical solutions. The amount is $85,000. You're selling the house for considerably more than that. So the closing attorney can pay the lien from the proceeds. I looked from him to Mom. Neither of them looked confused anymore. You want me to pay you $85,000 for a debt you both say doesn't exist? Dad's jaw tightened. It can be sorted out afterward. How? Privately. Mom reached toward my hand. I moved it before she touched me. She said, "We don't want this becoming ugly. It became ugly when someone forged my signature. Keep your voice down. I'm not raising it." That seemed to bother her more. Dad tapped the copy with one finger. Pay it, clear the title, and let the sale go through. Then we can figure out where the money belongs. It would belong in your account, temporarily. You denied knowing anything about this 2 hours ago. I still don't know how the paperwork was created, but you know you want it paid. He looked toward the empty place at the table. That was the smallest movement, but it answered more than anything he had said. I picked up the copy. Tell Haley to return my call. Dad said, "Don't threaten your sister." I haven't threatened anyone. You're treating this like one of your investigations. I slid the paper into my bag. No. If I were treating it like an investigation, I wouldn't have shown you this. Mom followed me to the front door. Natalie, please, just give us a day. For what? To talk. You've had weeks. She looked back toward the dining room. Then she whispered, "Your father is trying to protect everybody." From what? Mom opened her mouth. Dad called from the table. Deborah. She flinched and stepped away from me. I left without saying goodbye. By the time I reached my car, I knew two things. The lien wasn't a clerical error, and whatever my parents were protecting, Haley was standing in the middle of it. Haley called before I reached the end of the block. I pulled over beneath a live oak and answered through the car speakers. "You left me a message," she said. Her voice was calm. Too calm for someone who had just learned our parents were named on a fraudulent lien. "Yes. Dad says you caused a scene at dinner. I asked questions. You upset Mom. She'll recover." Haley sighed. "Can we talk without you being hostile?" "I haven't said anything hostile. This tone you use is hostile. I watched a cyclist pass my car. Did you arrange the security deed?" "No. Did you know it existed?" "Not until today." "Did you bring any papers to Mom and Dad's house in May?" "I bring papers there all the time. Dad asks me to print things." "Did you bring that deed?" "No." "Do you know Austin Figueroa?" She waited just long enough for me to notice. Then she said, "The name sounds familiar. From where?" "He's a mobile notary. Savannah isn't a huge city. Have you hired him?" "I don't keep every vendor's name in my head. You're a real estate broker. And you work with notaries. Sometimes." I pulled the parking brake. "Did you hire Austin Figueroa to notarize a security deed at our parents' house?" "No." Her answer was immediate this time. "Where did you get the copy of my driver's license?" "What are you talking about? The person signing as me would need identification. That sounds like a question for your attorney. I'm asking you. You're making a serious accusation. I'm asking where you got my identification. I didn't get it anywhere. You had a copy when I applied to lease your old condo. That was years ago. So you remember it." Haley's voice sharpened. "I have client files, property files, and old family documents. That doesn't mean I used your driver's license to commit fraud." I hadn't used the word fraud with her yet. I looked down at my phone. "Why did you call it fraud?" "Because that's what you're implying. I asked about a copy of my license. You told Dad your name was forged. So he called you. We're a family. People talk." Apparently not when I asked direct questions. She breathed into the phone, then her tone softened. "Natalie, listen to me. You're about to lose a good buyer because a document got recorded incorrectly. You need to focus on the sale." "How do you know the buyer might walk?" "Dad told me the closing was postponed. He didn't know the buyer's position. It's obvious. Buyers don't wait forever." "Did you speak to Marianne?" "No." "Did you speak to Craig?" "No." "Then you don't know anything about the buyer." "I know real estate." There it was. Her usual answer. I said, "Did Mom and Dad actually give anyone $85,000? I don't manage their accounts. You helped them refinance 2 years ago. That doesn't make me their accountant." "No, it makes you familiar with their finances. What do you want, Natalie?" "The truth." She gave a tired little laugh. "You always say that when you mean control." I closed my eyes. "Who signed my name?" "I don't know." "Who appeared before the notary?" "I don't know." "Why are Mom and Dad willing to accept the money?" "I don't know. Why did the deed appear after I refused to lend you the same amount?" This time, she didn't answer. I could hear a turn signal clicking on her end. Then she said, "You're going to regret how you're handling this." "Is that a warning?" "It's advice. Return the title to my house." "I don't have your title." "You know what I mean." "No, Natalie, I know what you want me to mean." She ended the call. I sat under that tree until the streetlight came on. Then I forwarded the call details to Emily and wrote down what Haley had said about the driver's license. Georgia law allows one party to record a call, but I hadn't recorded that one. I wished I had. From then on, I decided I would. Craig called at 8 the next morning. "The buyers want a firm update by Friday," he said. It was Tuesday. What happens Friday? "They decide whether to extend or exercise their rights under the contract, meaning they can walk." Yes. I stood in the empty front bedroom while we spoke. Sunlight showed clean rectangles where furniture had covered the floor. "Can you remove a forged lien in 3 days?" "Not cleanly, unless the named lien holders sign a release." "They won't." Have you asked? They told me to pay it. Craig was silent for a moment. They said that directly? My father said the closing attorney should pay it from the proceeds. My mother asked me to keep it private. I need your notes from that conversation. I'll send them. Did either one admit signing? No. What did Haley say? She denied knowing about it. Then she said I would regret how I'm handling it. Was the call recorded? No. Future calls will be. Good. I walked to the front window. A couple stood across the street taking pictures of a renovated house. What's our next step? The notary. I was thinking the same thing. I've tried his business number. It went to voicemail. I'll find him. Natalie, let me make the formal contact. You can. I still want to speak to him. He may not talk to you. Then I'll learn that. Craig didn't argue. Don't accuse him. Ask what identification he reviewed and where the signing took place. I know, and don't tell him everything you have. I know that too. His voice softened. I realize you do this kind of work, not when the signatures belong to my family. No, that part is different. After we hung up, I searched for Figueroa Mobile Notary Services. The business listing had a post office box, a phone number, and a website. The website showed Austin smiling in a dark blue shirt beside a stack of loan documents. He advertised evening appointments, hospital visits, estate documents, and real estate signings. His reviews were mostly good. Several people mentioned that he was careful with identification. That bothered me. I checked the stamp on the deed again. The commission number and expiration date were visible. The name matched the state notary listing. This wasn't a fake stamp copied from the internet. A real notary had placed it there. I called his number. He answered after 3 rings. Figueroa Mobile Notary Services. This is Austin. My name is Natalie Lawrence. There was a pause. Yes? You notarized a security deed under my name in May. I handle a lot of documents. This one was for a property on Huntington Street. The appointment appears to have taken place at John and Deborah Lawrence's address. His voice became guarded. What's the date? I gave it to him. I heard keyboard keys. Then he said, I'd need to review my records. I'd like to meet with you. What is this regarding? I didn't sign the document. He stopped typing. Are you saying the signature was forged? I'm saying I wasn't there. I verified the signer's identification. What identification? I'm not discussing a client file by phone. I'm the person named in the file. And I can't verify that over a phone call. That was a fair answer. It still frustrated me. How can I verify it? You can email a copy of your identification and the recorded instrument. I'm not emailing my license to someone I've never met. Then have your attorney contact me. He already left you a message. Another pause. Craig Moss? Yes, I saw it. Will you return his call? I will. Today. His tone hardened. I didn't do anything wrong, Miss Lawrence. I didn't say you did. You said you weren't there. I wasn't. The woman who signed the deed was there. The sentence landed differently than I expected. Not someone had submitted a page with a forged signature. A woman had sat in front of him and claimed to be me. I asked, where did she sign? At the appointment address. My parents' house? I'm not giving further details by phone. What did she look like? I said I'm not discussing it. Did you compare her face to the license? Of course I did. And you believed she was me? She identified herself as Natalie Lawrence. She presented valid identification bearing that name. She answered identity questions. The witnesses addressed her as Natalie. I tightened my grip on the phone. What witnesses? I've already said too much. Were John and Deborah Lawrence present? You need to speak through your attorney. He ended the call. I stood in the kitchen with the phone still against my ear. The problem had widened. Someone hadn't just copied my signature. Someone had used my identification, answered to my name, and sat inside my parents' house, while other people treated her like she belonged there. I called Craig. He picked up immediately. He says a woman appeared in person. I said, slow down. I repeated the conversation as closely as I could. When I reached the part about witnesses addressing the woman as Natalie, Craig stopped me. He used the plural? Yes. Witnesses. Did he name them? No. Did you ask? Yes. He ended the call. Craig exhaled. I'll contact him in writing. He sounded afraid. He may be. Of me? Of liability. If he notarized a forged security deed, he has a problem even if he believed the identification. He said it was valid. Your actual license is still in your possession? I took out my wallet and checked, though I already knew. Yes. Was it ever lost? No. Renewed recently? 2 years ago. What happened to the old one? I thought about that. I don't know. You didn't destroy it? I usually cut old cards before throwing them away. Usually? Yes. I opened the kitchen drawer where Grandma used to keep scissors. It was empty now. Craig said, think about who had access to copies. Haley did, from an old condo application. Anyone else? My parents may have. Mom kept copies of family documents in a file cabinet. Did the impersonator resemble you? I don't know. Could your sister? I didn't answer right away. Haley and I were both fair-skinned, with dark blonde hair. She was taller. Her face was narrower. Nobody who knew us would confuse us. A stranger looking at an old license photo might. I don't know who appeared, I said. That's the correct answer for now. I didn't like it, but he was right. Craig told me not to contact Austin again until he had responded formally. An hour later, he forwarded me a short email from Austin. Austin confirmed that he had completed the notarization. He said the signer had presented a Georgia driver's license bearing my name and photograph. He declined to provide more without legal advice. He also wrote that 2 witnesses had been present. He did not name them. I read the email several times. Then Marianne called. The buyers are nervous, she said. I know. They've scheduled movers. Their lease ends next month. I'm working on it. They're asking whether this is a family dispute. Who told them that? Their attorney saw the lien holders' names. I sat on the floor beneath the kitchen window. What did you say? I said title counsel was reviewing an unauthorized filing. That's all. That's all. But they need reassurance. I can't give them a closing date yet. I understand. I'm telling you because they may request their earnest money back if we can't clear this. How long will they wait? Friday, maybe Monday, if we give them something concrete. The sale price had already been negotiated down after inspection. If the buyers walked, I would have to disclose a title problem to the next buyer. The house could sit for months. Meanwhile, taxes, insurance, and maintenance would continue. So would the risk that my parents tried to enforce the debt. I'll have something by Friday, I said. After the call, I drove to my parents' house. I didn't go inside. Their garage was open. Dad's car was gone. Mom's was in the driveway. Through the garage, I could see the gray metal file cabinet where she kept old tax returns, birth certificates, insurance policies, and copies of our driver's licenses. The bottom drawer was open. Mom came through the interior door carrying a paper grocery bag. When she saw my car, she stopped. I lowered the window. "What are you doing?" she asked, looking at the file cabinet. Her eyes moved toward it. "Why? Do you still have a copy of my driver's license?" "I don't know." "Check." "Now?" "Yes." She set down the bag. "You can't pull up and demand things. I'm asking for my own document. It's just an old family file." "Then check." Mom glanced toward the street. "Come inside." "No. Your father will be home soon." "I'm not here to see Dad." Her face tightened. "You're tearing this family apart over paperwork." "No. Someone used my identification." She looked at me sharply. "Who told you that?" "The notary." The color left her face. Only for a second. Then she said, "I thought your attorney told you not to investigate this yourself." I had never told her what Craig advised. I opened my door and got out. "Where did you hear that?" I assumed. "From Haley?" Mom picked up the grocery bag. "I don't know where your old license is. Did Haley take it?" "Of course not." "Did she ask for it?" "No." "Did anybody remove papers from that cabinet in May?" Mom stepped backward through the garage. "You need to leave." I didn't follow her. She reached for the button to close the garage door. Before it came down, I saw a white shipping label stuck to the side of the file cabinet. The return address belonged to Haley's brokerage. I took a picture through the narrowing gap. It might have meant nothing. Haley used my parents' house for deliveries sometimes. She had done that for years. But Mom had known I spoke to the notary before I told her. She had known my attorney wanted caution. The file drawer holding old identification was open. A label from Haley's office was attached to the cabinet. I sent the picture to Emily. She called immediately. "Do not go through that cabinet," she said. "I'm standing in the driveway." "Good. Stay there. The drawer is open. It's still their property." "I know. Did your mother admit anything?" "No. What did she do?" "Asked who told me identification was used." Emily went quiet. Then she said, "That's useful." "Not enough." "No, but it's useful." I got back into my car. Austin's home office address wasn't on his website, but the address connected to his notary commission was public. It was in a residential neighborhood south of downtown. I drove there without deciding what I would say. His car was in the driveway. A small magnetic sign on the door displayed his business name. I stayed across the street and called Craig. "You told me not to contact him," I said. "Yes, I'm outside his house." "Natalie, I'm not going to threaten him. I want to show him my conference records in person." Craig was quiet for a few seconds. "Do not enter unless he invites you." "I won't. Keep the conversation factual." "I will. And call me when you leave." I crossed the street carrying the hotel receipt, the attendance report, and my conference badge. Austin opened the door after I rang once. He recognized me from the license photograph. I saw it happen. Then he looked at the badge in my hand. "I was 250 miles away," I said. "You need to see this." He didn't invite me inside right away. He studied the hotel receipt. Then he read the session report. When he reached the entry times, his face changed. He opened the door wider. "Come in," he said. His office occupied the front room of the house. There was a desk, 2 chairs, and a printer on a low cabinet. A camera on a tripod faced a blank wall where he probably took identification photos. Austin pointed to the chair nearest the door. "You can sit there." I remained standing until he sat behind the desk. He looked at the documents again. "This attendance report came from your employer?" "Yes." "And the conference was in Atlanta?" "Yes." "You were there all day?" "The badge scans show that. The hotel has security cameras if we need more." He turned over the conference badge. My photograph was printed beside my name. "What time did you leave Atlanta?" "The next morning." He placed the badge on the desk. "I need to be careful about what I say." "So do I. I verified identification at the appointment." "You've said that." "The license scanned is valid." "How did you scan it?" "With an identification verification app. It reads the barcode and checks the document format." "Does it compare the face?" "No. I do that." "And you compared that woman to the picture?" "Yes." "Did she look like me?" Austin studied my face. "Close enough that I accepted it." "That isn't what I asked." He looked uncomfortable. "The photograph was older. The woman had darker hair than you have now. She wore glasses." "I don't wear glasses." "She said they were for reading." "How tall was she?" "She was sitting most of the time." "What do you remember?" "I remember she was quiet. The others did most of the talking." "What others?" He lowered his eyes to the attendance report. "You said your attorney represents you." "Yes." "I should call him before we go further." "Call him." Austin picked up his phone and stepped into the hallway. He closed the office door halfway, but I could still hear parts of the conversation. He identified himself. Then he said my name and Craig's. After that, his voice dropped. "I heard. She has proof," followed by, "No, I didn't know." He returned several minutes later. "Mr. Moss advised me to preserve my records." "Were you planning not to?" "That isn't what I said. You told me a woman appeared as me. My parents and sister may be involved. I'm not interested in protecting anyone's comfort." His face tightened. "I'm not your enemy. I don't know what you are yet." He accepted that without arguing. Then he crossed to the low cabinet and unlocked the bottom drawer. He removed a black notebook with a worn, elastic strap. It wasn't an official government book. It looked like the kind sold at an office supply store. What is that? My signing journal. I thought Georgia didn't require one. It doesn't. I keep one anyway. Why? I was sued several years ago. A signer claimed she had never appeared before me. I had copies of her identification, but no record of the people in the room. The case was dismissed, but it cost me money. He placed the journal on the desk. After that, I started recording every appointment. Date, time, address, document type, identification, people present. For property documents, I take a thumbprint. I looked at the notebook. Whose thumbprint? The person signing. Did you take one at my parents' house? Yes. He hadn't opened the journal yet. I sat down. Austin removed the elastic strap and turned through the pages. Each appointment occupied 2 facing pages. Names and addresses were written in blue or black ink. Some entries had small squares filled with fingerprints. He reached the date in May. His hand stopped. I could see the address before he turned the book toward me. It was my parents' house. At the top, he had written security deed, $85,000. Below that was my name, Natalie Lawrence. The signature beside it was the same careful imitation recorded at the courthouse. A dark thumbprint filled the square beneath my name. I held my right thumb beside it without touching the page. The print in the journal had a broad central loop. Mine had a tight curve that swept toward the edge. I wasn't a fingerprint examiner. I knew enough not to make a formal claim from looking. Still, they did not look the same. Austin said, "I watched her press her thumb there. Then that isn't my thumb." He moved his chair back from the desk. I read the identification line. Georgia driver's license. The number was mine. The expiration date was from my previous license. Did you copy it? Yes. Where's the copy? In the file. Show me. He opened a folder on his computer and searched by date. A scanned image appeared on the monitor. It was my old driver's license. The photograph had been taken years earlier. My hair was longer and darker then. I had renewed the license, but the identifying information was still close enough to appear current at a glance. Austin enlarged the image. The barcode checked out, he said. It was a real license. Yes, it just wasn't in my possession. I understand that now. No, you understand I have an alibi. You still haven't told me who was in the room. Austin looked at the journal again. There were 3 witnesses. He turned the page slightly. I read the first name, Haley Schmidt. Her signature appeared beside it. The second line said John Lawrence. The third said Deborah Lawrence. All 3 had signed Austin's journal in their own handwriting. I knew those signatures. Dad's J began with a heavy downward stroke. Mom always made the D in Deborah too large. Haley's signature had the same sharp H she used on every birthday card and real estate flyer. I read each name twice. My parents hadn't merely known about the document. They had stood inside their own house while another woman used my name. They had watched her press a thumb into Austin's journal. They had signed beneath her. My sister had been there too. If you would have stopped trusting them at that point, leave the word journal in the comments. Austin said something, but I didn't hear it. I was looking at Mom's signature. Less than a day earlier, she had stood in her garage and asked who told me my identification had been used. At dinner, she had studied the forged signature and said it looked like mine. She knew exactly what it looked like. She had watched someone write it. I took out my phone. Austin raised one hand. Don't photograph the journal yet. Why? There's private information from other clients on nearby pages. I only need this entry. I need legal advice before I give you a copy. You just called Craig. He represents you, not me. Then call your own attorney. I will. I looked at the appointment time. 6:40 in the evening. I had been attending a conference reception in Atlanta then. My badge had been scanned at the door. There would be photographs. I asked, who arranged the appointment? Austin rubbed his forehead. The booking came through my business line. From whom? I need to check. Was it Haley? I don't remember. Her signature is on the page. That doesn't mean she scheduled it. Did you know her before that night? No. Did she identify herself as a real estate broker? She gave me a business card. Do you still have it? It may be in the appointment envelope. Please look. Austin stayed seated. I understand why you're upset, but I need to slow this down. I'm not upset. He looked at my hands. I had folded the hotel receipt into a narrow strip without realizing it. I placed it flat on the desk. Did my parents call the woman Natalie? Yes. Did Haley? Yes. Did anyone seem nervous? He thought about that. The signer did. How? She asked where to place her thumb twice. Her hands were shaking. What did the others say? The older woman told her to relax. My mother, I assume. You wrote her name? Yes. What did Haley do? She reviewed the deed before the signing. Did she explain it? She said it documented a family loan. To whom? To me, mostly. The signer didn't ask questions. Did you ask whether I understood the document? Yes. What did she say? She said she did. What exactly did she say? Austin looked away from me. She said, my sister already explained it. That sentence settled over the room. Didn't that strike you as strange? Families handle private loans. A real estate broker being present didn't seem unusual. Did you ask why my parents were the lien holders? No. Did you ask whether they had transferred the money? No. My job was to witness the signature, not verify the underlying debt. And the woman answered identity questions? Yes. What questions? Date of birth, current address, previous address. She could have learned those from my old license and family records. I asked, did she know anything that wasn't written down? I asked her how long she had owned the Huntington Street property. What did she say? Since 2019? That was public record. What else? I asked whether she lived there. She said yes. Another easy answer. Austin watched me process it. I believed her, he said. My family made sure you would. He didn't deny that. I stood and walked to the front window. His lawn needed mowing. Across the street, my car sat in full sun. Do you remember the vehicle she arrived in? No. Everyone was already there when I arrived. Did you see her leave? No. I left first. What happened after the signing? I collected my fee. Haley walked me to the door. Who paid you? He turned back to his computer. I need to check the invoice. He opened his accounting software and found the payment. It had been made in cash. The receipt listed the client as Lawrence family. Who handed you the cash? Haley. I looked at him. Did she ask you not to email anything? His expression changed again. Yes. What did she say? She said her parents were private and wanted paper copies. Did you give them copies? One for the signer and one for the lien holders. Who took the signer's copy? Haley gathered all the papers. So the woman who claimed to be me left without the deed she supposedly signed. Austin closed the invoice. I didn't notice that at the time. I returned to the desk. You need to preserve the journal, the license scan, the invoice, and anything showing how the appointment was scheduled. I will. Don't call my family. I wasn't planning to. Don't call Haley. He looked offended. I understand how evidence works. So do I. He picked up his phone. I'm calling my attorney now. I stood by the door while he made the call. This conversation lasted longer. His attorney apparently told him not to give me the original journal, which I hadn't requested. After more discussion, Austin agreed to make a clean copy of the relevant pages and sign a statement confirming they came from his ordinary business records. He covered the neighboring entries with blank paper before copying anything. I watched him place the journal on the scanner. The machine pulled the page through slowly. Austin checked the copy, then made another. He wrote the date and his commission information on both. He signed beneath a statement that the copies were true and accurate images of the original entry. He kept one. He gave one to me in a white envelope. What happens to me? He asked. I don't know. I followed my procedure. You followed a procedure built around a driver's license. 3 people in that room helped someone defeat it. I know that now. You also kept the one record they couldn't control. He looked down at the journal. Habit. It may have saved my house. Neither of us said anything for a moment. Then Austin said, "The woman wasn't Haley. I had been wondering." "You're certain?" "Yes. They were both in the room. Did she look related to us?" "Maybe, I couldn't say." "Do you know her name?" "No, she called herself Natalie." "Would you recognize her again?" "I think so." That created another question, but not one I could answer there. I placed the copied journal pages between the attendance report and hotel receipt. Austin walked me to the door. Before I left, he said, "Your mother seemed uncomfortable." I turned. In what way? She kept asking whether all 3 witnesses needed to sign my journal. I told her the journal was my policy, even if the deed required fewer signatures. What did Haley say? She told her, "It's fine. This is just his record." Anything else? At the end, your mother asked where I stored the journal. I stared at him. What did you tell her? That I kept it secured. Did Haley hear that? Yes. Did she react? Not that I noticed. I thanked him and stepped outside. Craig called before I reached my car. Austin's attorney contacted me, he said. I have copies of the journal entry. So I heard. They all signed it. Who? Haley, Mom, and Dad. Craig didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice was lower. Keep those pages secure. Come to my office. I need to call Emily. Call her from the car, then come here. I sat behind the wheel and locked the doors. Emily answered with, "Are you okay?" They were all there. Who? Haley, Mom, and Dad. Their names are in his journal, their signatures too. She stopped breathing for a second. Then she said, "Your parents witnessed it?" "Yes." "And Haley?" "Yes." "Who pretended to be you?" "I don't know. I could hear office sounds around her. A printer, a ringing phone, someone speaking down the hall." Emily closed a door. "What else is in the journal?" "A thumbprint. A scan of my old license. The time, address, document, and everyone present. That's not a mistake." "No." "What did Craig say?" "To bring it to him. Do that. I'll meet you there. I want to ask Haley why." "Don't." "I know." "No, I mean, really don't. Not today. They think you have a recorded deed and an alibi. They don't know you have their signatures in a private journal." I looked at the white envelope on the passenger seat. "You're right. That gives you room." "For what?" "To find out what the $85,000 was actually for." I started the car. At Craig's office, he read the copied journal entry without speaking. Emily arrived while he was comparing the witness signatures to the deed. She sat beside me at the conference table. Craig reached the thumbprint and tapped the page once. "This changes the position," he said. "How?" "Yesterday you had a document you denied signing. Today you have a contemporaneous record showing an unidentified person used your identity while your immediate family watched. What can we do with it? First, we protect the evidence. Second, we establish formally that this print isn't yours. Third, we find out who benefited. My parents are named to receive the payoff." Craig looked at me over his glasses. Named benefit and actual motive aren't always the same thing. Emily opened her laptop. "We start with Haley's business." I looked at the 3 signatures again. They had risked my house to move $85,000 somewhere. Now I needed to know where. Emily typed Haley's license number into the Georgia Real Estate Commission database. Her broker's license appeared as active. The page showed the date it was issued, the brokerage address, and a link to public disciplinary records. Emily clicked it. There was no suspension, no revocation, just a compliance notice from several months earlier. Craig leaned closer. What triggered that? Emily opened the attached document. The notice concerned a client trust account. During a routine review, the brokerage's monthly reconciliation had not matched its supporting transaction records. Haley had corrected the reported discrepancy and agreed to a follow-up audit. I read the paragraph twice. What does corrected mean? It could mean bookkeeping errors were fixed, Emily said. It doesn't prove money was missing. When is the follow-up? Craig pointed to the final page. The audit window opened in less than 3 weeks. The commission could inspect the account at any point during the following month. Haley would need bank statements, deposit records, closing files, and a full reconciliation. I said, "That gives her a deadline. It gives her pressure," Craig said. "We still don't know what she did." Emily searched the brokerage name. The business was registered as Schmidt Coastal Realty. Haley was the qualifying broker, which meant the trust account was her responsibility. Emily opened the firm's website. Laura Cole appeared on the staff page beneath Haley's photograph. Her title was Transaction Coordinator. I recognized her name. She had emailed me years earlier about renewing the lease on Haley's condo. That was probably how Haley's office still had a copy of my old license. Would she have access to the trust account records? I asked. Maybe not the bank account itself, Emily said, but transaction coordinators track deposits and closings. She'd notice missing paperwork. Craig pushed back from the table. Don't contact her from my office. Why? Because I want to preserve a clean line between legal communication and your personal investigation. Emily looked at him. That sounds like lawyer language for don't make me responsible. It's exactly that. I almost smiled. Craig gathered the journal copy and placed it in a file. I'm keeping this in the firm's safe. You'll keep your copy somewhere separate. Austin's original remains with him. What about the closing? I'll draft an affidavit stating that the signature is forged. Before filing it, I want stronger identification proof. The conference records aren't enough. They prove you were elsewhere. The thumbprint may prove someone else appeared. I looked at the dark print on the copied page. My licensing fingerprints are on file. With whom? The State Board of Accountancy. They were taken when I became a CPA. 9 years ago? Yes. Craig nodded. Request a certified record. We'll use an examiner. That belonged to the next step. First, I needed to understand why Haley had needed the money badly enough to do this. Emily and I left Craig's office together. In the elevator, she said, Laura probably won't talk at work. Would you? No. How do we approach her? We don't lead with forgery. We ask about the notary appointment. We went to a coffee shop near Emily's office. She ordered tea and opened her laptop at a corner table. Laura's professional profile listed a direct work email and cell number. Emily wrote a short message. I'm helping Natalie Lawrence clarify a title issue involving an appointment placed through your office. We need to confirm who scheduled Figueroa Mobile Notary Services for the Lawrence residence in May. Please call when you can. She showed it to me. No mention of the deed? I asked. Not yet. She sent it. Laura called 12 minutes later. Emily put the phone on speaker and identified herself. Laura spoke quietly. Is Haley with you? No, Emily said. Does she know you contacted me? No. What title issue? I leaned toward the phone. My name is Natalie Lawrence. A security deed was signed under my name at my parents' house. Laura stopped speaking. I heard a door close on her end. Then she said, I only scheduled the appointment. For whom? I asked. Haley. What did she tell you it was? A family loan document. Did you know someone would sign as me? No. I thought you were going to be there. Why? Because the calendar entry had your name. Who gave you the appointment details? Haley did. Emily asked. Do you still have that calendar entry? I think so. Don't delete it. I wasn't going to. Laura's breathing became quicker. Is this a criminal thing? I don't know yet, I said. I didn't prepare any deed. Who did? I don't know. Did Haley ask you to contact Austin specifically? Yes. Why him? She said she wanted a mobile notary who kept evening hours. Did she give you my parents' address? Yes. Did she send you a copy of my license? No. She said the signer had identification. Emily asked, When did you realize Natalie wasn't there? I didn't. Not until this call. Did Austin send a confirmation afterward? To the general scheduling email. Do you still have it? Probably. Laura, Emily said, please don't forward anything through your work account. Preserve it where it is. Laura was silent. Then she asked, What exactly did Haley do? I looked at Emily. She shook her head. I said, I'm still establishing that. It was the truth. Laura lowered her voice further. You need to know about the audit. We found the compliance notice, Emily said. That isn't the whole problem. I pulled my chair closer. What's the whole problem? Laura didn't answer immediately. I could hear typing somewhere near her. She may have been checking whether anyone was outside the door. Finally, she said, I can't talk about this from the office. Where can you meet? I asked. Not today. When? Tomorrow morning. Before work. She named a bakery and a shopping center south of downtown. Emily said, bring the scheduling confirmation. Laura ended the call without promising. The next morning, we arrived before 7. Laura was already seated in the back with a paper cup and a closed laptop bag. She was 26, neatly dressed, with her office badge still clipped to her purse. She kept looking toward the entrance. Emily sat across from her. I took the chair beside Emily. Laura said, I can lose my job for this. You can also be blamed for an appointment you scheduled, Emily said. That's what I'm afraid of. Then tell us exactly what happened. Laura opened her laptop. The brokerage calendar showed an entry from the week before the signing. Mobile Notary, Lawrence Family Security Deed. The appointment location was my parents' address. The signer field said Natalie Lawrence. Haley was listed as the requesting broker. Laura clicked an email attached to the entry. It was from her to Austin. At Haley's request, please confirm an evening signing for Ms. Natalie Lawrence at the address below. Austin had replied with the appointment time. I asked, did Haley tell you to use the words, at Haley's request? No. I write who requested appointments so nobody argues about it later. That small habit had put Haley's name beside the booking. Can you give me a copy? I asked. Laura hesitated. I need to know what you're doing with it. Clearing a lien from my house. Her eyes widened. The deed was recorded? Yes. I thought it was just supporting paperwork. Supporting what? She looked at Emily. Emily said, this is the part where you protect yourself by being accurate. Laura shut the laptop halfway. In 2024, Haley bought a house to flip with 2 private investors. The renovation went over budget. Then the foundation failed inspection. Which house? I asked. Laura gave me an address on the west side of Savannah. I recognized it from Haley's social media. She had posted progress pictures for months, then stopped mentioning it. Laura continued. The investors wouldn't contribute more. Haley used brokerage operating money to keep the contractors working. How much? I don't know exactly. A lot. What happened to the house? It sold at a loss. And the brokerage? She had bills she couldn't cover. Advertising, payroll, office rent. I asked, what does that have to do with the trust account? Laura pressed her fingers against the lid of her cup. Haley moved money out of it. How much? She looked directly at me. $85,000. Nothing in the bakery changed. A grinder ran behind the counter. Someone opened the front door, letting in a burst of warm air. Emily asked, when? Not all at once. It started in 2024. She coded transfers as refunds and temporary advances. Advances to whom? Different operating accounts. Were they connected to the flip? Most of the payments went to contractors or the lender on that property. I said, client trust money paid for her failed house. Yes. Whose client money? Deposits from several transactions. It moved in and out, so the shortage wasn't always visible. I understood the method. New deposits covered old withdrawals. When transactions closed, money moved again. On a busy account, the balance could look healthy while individual client ledgers didn't match. The compliance review had caught the records failing to reconcile. Haley had made the paperwork look corrected without replacing the full shortage. I asked, how did she pass the first review? She moved funds from a business credit line before the inspection. Then she moved them back out when the line came due. And now? The credit line is maxed. When does the commission return? Haley thinks within 60 days of the May signing. They gave her an audit window, not an exact day. That explained the urgency at my parents' dining table in March. Haley hadn't needed money for a new opportunity. She needed to replace money she had already taken. Why did she ask me for the loan before creating the lien? I asked. Laura stared at her cup. She said you had a house with no large mortgage and would eventually agree. Did she tell you the amount? Yes. 85,000? Yes. What did she say after I refused? Laura's mouth tightened. She said your grandmother had made you selfish. I let that sit. Emily asked, when did the security deed enter the conversation? A few weeks later. Haley told me her parents had agreed to a private family loan structure. Meaning what? I thought John and Deborah were lending her the money, then securing it against Natalie's house with permission. It didn't make sense to me, but family deals often don't. Did you see any transfer from them? I asked. No. Did $85,000 ever enter the trust account? Not yet. Then what was Haley planning? Laura opened the laptop again and pulled up a reconciliation worksheet. There was a handwritten note in the margin beside the trust shortage. Lawrence payoff before audit. I recognized Haley's handwriting. She expected the closing attorney to pay the lien holders, Laura said. Your parents would receive the money from your sale. Then they were supposed to transfer it to the brokerage. My money would refill her client account. Yes, and the recorded security deed made the payment look like a legitimate payoff. Yes, there was the complete shape of it. My parents weren't the final beneficiaries. They were the path. Haley had taken $85,000 from client escrow to cover her failed flip. She needed it back before the commission inspected the account. She asked me directly in March. I refused, so she used my old license, found a woman to take my place, and created a debt against Grandma's house. My parents agreed to receive the payoff because their names looked less suspicious than hers. Then they expected me to clear it quietly. I asked Laura, "Why are you telling us this?" Because Haley asked me yesterday whether I had deleted old calendar entries. Emily and I looked at each other. "What did you say?" Emily asked. I said no. "What did she tell you to do? Clean up anything unrelated to active transactions? Did she name the notary appointment?" No, she didn't have to. I turned the laptop toward me and read Haley's note again. "Will you provide a signed statement?" Laura closed the computer. "I need time." "How much?" "Until tonight," Emily said. "Don't discuss this with Haley. I won't. Preserve the email, calendar entry, and worksheet. I already copied them." She removed a small flash drive from her purse but didn't hand it over. "I'll give this to an attorney, not directly to you." "That's fine," I said. Laura studied my face. "Haley told everyone you agreed to help." I told her no. She said you changed your mind. I didn't. Laura looked sick. She knew the audit would find it. Yes. And she used me to schedule the notary. Yes. For the first time, someone besides me understood what Haley's plan required. It required all of us to do one small task without seeing the whole thing. Laura scheduled an appointment. Austin checked an old license. My parents signed as witnesses. A woman answered to my name. Craig would send the payoff because the recorded deed instructed him to. Haley had counted on each person looking only at the paper in front of them. I gathered my bag. Laura asked, "What are you going to do?" I looked at the handwritten note on her screen. "Make sure the next person who reviews her records sees all of them." Craig called Laura that afternoon. She agreed to meet him at his office after work. Emily and I were there, but we waited in a separate room while Craig spoke with her. Laura stayed for almost 2 hours. When she left, her face looked tired. She carried the empty laptop bag under one arm. Craig brought us into the conference room. On the table were printed copies of the scheduling email, the calendar entry, and the trust account worksheet. Laura had signed a statement before a notary. It said Haley instructed her to schedule Austin at my parents' house. It confirmed Haley described the document as a family security deed. It also described the trust account shortfall, the failed flip, and the approaching audit. Craig had made Laura separate what she knew personally from what she assumed. She knew the amount because she had seen the reconciliations. She knew the money went toward the failed flip because she processed contractor invoices. She knew Haley expected the house sale to cover the shortage because Haley wrote Lawrence payoff before audit on the worksheet. Laura did not claim to know who impersonated me. That made the statement stronger. Craig said she was careful. She should be, Emily said. Her job is attached to this. Her job may already be gone. Did she tell Haley? No, she took personal leave for the rest of the week. I read the statement from beginning to end. Where's the flash drive? In the safe with the journal copy. What if Haley deletes the originals? The files contain dates and system information. Laura also exported the calendar history. Deletion won't help much. I placed the statement back on the table. Now the fingerprint. I had submitted my authorization to the Georgia State Board of Accountancy that morning. Craig requested a certified copy of the fingerprint record used during my licensing background check. The board would not release it directly to me by ordinary email. It had to go through an approved records process. Craig arranged for the certified record to be sent to Stephen Kahn. Stephen was a forensic document examiner who worked with law firms and insurance companies. His office was outside Savannah in a low building shared with an engineering consultant. 2 days later, Emily drove there with me. Stephen met us in the lobby. He was 50, soft-spoken, and careful with every page he handled. He took us into a workroom with bright overhead lights and a large camera mounted above a table. Austin was already there. His journal sat inside a clear protective sleeve. He had brought his attorney too. Stephen explained what he needed. "I'm not determining who made the question print," he said. "I'm determining whether Natalie Lawrence can be included or excluded as the person who made it." Austin's attorney asked, "Will you damage the journal?" "No." "You won't apply chemicals?" "No. I'll photograph the entry at high resolution." Stephen asked Austin to remove the journal from the sleeve and open it to the signing page. Austin did. The thumbprint looked darker under the workroom lights. Stephen placed a measurement scale beside it and took several photographs. Then he adjusted the lighting and photographed it again from a slight angle. I stood behind a marked line on the floor. He said, "The question print has some smearing, but there appears to be enough ridge detail." "How much is enough?" I asked. "It depends on quality and the features available. I don't count to a single magic number." He opened the certified fingerprint record from the board. The envelope had been sealed. He photographed the seal before cutting it. Inside was the fingerprint card connected to my CPA licensing background check in 2017. My name, identification number, and collection information appeared along the top. Stephen checked the certification page. Then he placed the right thumb image beneath a magnifier. Austin watched from the opposite side of the room. "I need comparison prints taken today as well," Stephen said. "Why, if the board has them. To confirm the historical record is consistent with your current prints and to improve image quality." He rolled my right thumb onto a digital scanner. Then he took an inked print on a separate card. My thumb left the same tight curve I had noticed in Austin's journal. Stephen didn't comment. He enlarged all 3 images on a monitor. The question print appeared on the left. My board record appeared in the middle. The new print appeared on the right. Even without training, I could see the difference. Stephen marked several ridge points on my 2 known prints. They matched each other. Then he marked the same areas on the questioned print. The ridges moved in another direction. Austin leaned forward. "That isn't her," Stephen said. "I'll state my conclusion after completing the examination." He spent another hour comparing the images. Nobody filled the silence. I watched him move between the monitor and his notes. He checked each marked feature twice. Finally, he turned away from the screen. The questioned thumbprint was not made by Natalie Lawrence. Austin sat back. His attorney wrote something on a yellow pad. I asked, "How certain can you state that?" "Exclusion is clear. The pattern type differs, and the ridge paths contain multiple incompatible features. Those differences aren't caused by pressure or smearing. Will you put that in writing?" "Yes." "When?" "Tomorrow afternoon." Craig received the report the following day. Stephen identified the materials he examined. He documented the chain of custody for the journal and the certified board record. He included enlarged comparison images. His conclusion was short. Natalie Lawrence was excluded as the source of the questioned thumbprint. I read that sentence several times. The conference records proved I was in Atlanta. The print proved another person had appeared. The journal proved Haley and my parents were in the room. Laura's statement proved Haley arranged the appointment and expected the sale proceeds to replace her trust account shortage. For the first time, no part depended on my family admitting anything. Craig spread the documents across his conference table. "This is the package," he said. "What happens if they say Austin fabricated the journal? He created it during the signing. The entry contains their signatures and the scanned identification. His invoice and appointment records support the date. What if Haley attacks Laura? She probably will. The calendar export and email support Laura. What if Mom says she didn't understand? That may affect how people judge her. It doesn't remove her from the room." Emily looked at the fingerprint report. "And John?" "Same answer." I asked, "Can we clear the title now?" Craig nodded. "We can move." He prepared a sworn affidavit of forgery for me to sign. It identified the recorded security deed, stated that I had never signed or authorized it, and attached the records showing I was in Atlanta. The journal and fingerprint report were referenced, but Craig did not attach every page to the public filing. "We preserve enough to challenge the deed without giving Haley our full file," he said. He also prepared the notice concerning the disputed instrument, so the title record showed the lien was being formally challenged. I signed the affidavit in Craig's office. Another notary watched me sign it. She examined my current driver's license, recorded the information, and placed her stamp beneath my real signature. I noticed every movement. Craig filed the affidavit and the related title notice in the Chatham County real estate records. He also sent the evidence package to the title underwriter. The underwriter agreed the security deed could not be treated as a valid debt from me. With the affidavit recorded and the supporting proof held in Craig's file, the forged lien would not receive a payoff from the sale. The title company approved a rescheduled closing, provided no new claim appeared. The new date was set for the week after my parents' anniversary party. I asked Craig, "Do Mom and Dad get notified about the filing? The records are public, but I'm not sending them the affidavit. They may discover it if they check." "They won't." "You sound certain. They think I'm trying to save the closing by negotiating with them. They don't think I found the signing journal." Emily said, "Keep it that way." I did. When Dad called that evening, I recorded the conversation. He said, "Have you decided what you're doing? My attorney is handling the title." "That isn't an answer. It's the only one I have for you. The buyers will walk if you keep dragging this out." "How do you know?" "Haley understands these things. Has Haley been discussing my closing with you? She's trying to help." I looked at Stephen's report on my table. "How?" "By finding a practical solution. Paying you $85,000, clearing the deed, a deed you say you know nothing about." Dad's breathing grew heavier. "You enjoy trapping people with words." I asked one question. "You've always needed to be right. I need my signature to remain mine." He was silent. Then he said, "Your mother's anniversary is coming up. Don't bring this mess into it. It's your anniversary too. You know what I mean. I'm not planning to discuss the house." "Good." That answer came too fast. Before ending the call, he said, "Haley may have found a way to help with the lien. Let her explain at the party if she wants." I wrote the sentence down after we disconnected. The following morning, an invitation arrived by email from Haley. She had designed it through her brokerage's marketing system. The gold banner read, "40 Years of Family." Below it was a list of guests copied openly into the message. I recognized several relatives and neighbors. Emily recognized 3 real estate agents. Craig recognized 2 former clients who still referred business to Haley. At the bottom, Haley had added a personal note. "Natalie, I hope we can put the recent confusion behind us and celebrate Mom and Dad properly. I've worked hard to keep your transaction moving, despite everything. Let's show up as a family." Emily read it over my shoulder. She thinks the closing problem makes her look useful. She thinks I'll stay quiet. "Will you?" I folded Stephen's report and returned it to the folder until she finishes talking. For the next 4 days, I answered every family message normally. Mom asked whether I was bringing a dessert. I said no. Haley's invitation says food is covered. Dad asked whether I had heard from the buyers. I said, Craig is handling it. Haley sent me the name of a mortgage broker who could supposedly help refinance the lien. I replied, thank you. She mistook that for surrender. Emily helped me prepare 3 sets of the documents. Each set contained the certified journal copy, Stephen's fingerprint report, and Laura's signed statement with the scheduling confirmation. Craig kept the originals and another full set at his office. I placed mine in a plain blue folder. Then I called Austin. I need to ask you for something uncomfortable, I said. That seems to be the kind of week we're having. My parents' anniversary party is Saturday. He was quiet. Haley will be there? Yes. What are you asking me to do? Attend. Confirm the journal entry if I need you. Why at a party? Because that's where Haley plans to explain the lien in front of people whose business she wants. Austin exhaled. My attorney isn't going to like that. Ask him. I already know what he'll say. Then I'll understand if the answer is no. He called back an hour later. His attorney had advised him to answer only factual questions. He would not speculate about the woman's identity or discuss other clients. That's all I need, I said. What time? The invitation says 6. Come at 7:30. Will they know I'm coming? No. Where should I go? The side gate. Emily will meet you. I had not asked Emily to do that yet. When I did, she said, Of course I'll meet him. I'm not letting a nervous notary wander through an anniversary party holding the most important notebook in Savannah. He isn't bringing the original. Good. Then I'm not tackling him behind the hydrangeas. She was joking, but only partly. Saturday arrived hot and cloudy. I spent the morning in the Huntington Street house because I needed to let a repairman check a leaking outdoor faucet before closing. The rooms were empty except for cleaning supplies and the dining chair where I had sat during Craig's first call. The buyers had agreed to the new date. They did not know the full reason for the delay. Craig had told their attorney that a fraudulent title instrument had been challenged and the underwriter had approved the corrective filings. Before leaving, I checked the back garden. A camellia blossom had fallen onto the brick path. I picked it up, then realized there was nowhere sensible to put it. I left it beneath the plant. At home, I changed into a dark green dress and low shoes. I carried Grandma's keepsake box to the kitchen table and opened it. Her letter was still folded behind the copy of her will. Do not let anyone make you feel guilty for receiving what I chose to give. I read it once, returned it to the box, and locked the box in my desk. The blue folder went into a large gift bag with tissue paper over it. I arrived at my parents' house shortly after 6. Haley had hired a company to set up round tables across the backyard. White lights were strung between the porch and the live oak. The cake stood on a decorated table beneath a framed wedding photograph. Mom wore a pale blue dress. Dad had put on a suit despite the heat. Haley met me at the gate. You came, she said. You invited me. Her eyes dropped to the gift bag. What's that? A family gift. From you? Yes. She reached for it. I shifted it behind my leg. I'll put it on the table. Her smile thinned, still guarding everything. Where do you want it? She pointed toward the cake. The gift table stood in full view of the patio. I placed the bag beneath it and kept the folder inside. Haley followed me. Did the refinance broker call you? No, I gave him your number. I didn't authorize that. He could help. Craig already rescheduled the closing. That surprised her. For when? Next week. How did you clear the lien? I didn't say it was cleared. Her expression settled again. Then you're not closing. The attorney believes we are. Haley lowered her voice. You can't sell with Mom and Dad's deed on title. I know how a security deed works. Apparently not, or you would have accepted my help. What help? I've been trying to keep this from turning into a family disaster. I looked past her. 2 agents from her brokerage were speaking with Dad near the drink table. A couple I recognized from Haley's client appreciation posts had just arrived. You invited clients to Mom and Dad's anniversary? They're friends. You met one of them through a closing last fall. They became friends. I nodded. Haley studied me. What did you file? Ask Craig. I'm asking you, and I'm telling you to ask Craig. She took a step closer. If you made a false accusation in the property record, that can come back on you. So can a true one. Her eyes held mine. Then Mom called her from the porch, and Haley walked away. Dinner was served buffet style. Baked ham, roasted vegetables, rolls, and 2 kinds of salad. Mom moved from table to table asking whether everyone had enough food. She barely spoke to me. Dad was friendlier than usual. He introduced me to one of Haley's referring agents as our accountant daughter. The man said, "Haley tells us you're selling a beautiful place downtown. She knows the address," I said. Dad laughed too loudly. At 7:15, Emily arrived carrying a bottle of wine. My parents knew her well enough that nobody questioned the invitation. She hugged Mom, shook Dad's hand, and came to my table. "Everything quiet?" she asked. "So far. Where's the bag?" "Under the gift table." "Is Haley drinking?" "Second glass." Emily looked toward the driveway. "I'll meet Austin in 15 minutes. Keep him near the side porch until I signal." "What's the signal?" "When Haley says she fixed the lien." Emily glanced at her. "That should happen quickly." It did. Dad began the toasts shortly before 8. He stood near the cake with one hand around Mom's waist. Someone turned down the music. Dad thanked everyone for coming. He talked about 40 years of marriage, retirement, and family traditions. Then he raised his glass. "The reason Deborah and I made it this far is loyalty," he said. "Family isn't about keeping score. It's about standing together when things get difficult." Several people nodded. I watched Mom. She kept her smile in place, but she didn't raise her glass. Dad continued, "Our daughters have given us plenty to be proud of. Haley built a business from the ground up. Natalie has done well in accounting. They're different, but when it matters, they show up for each other." That was new information to me. Haley smiled at the guests. Dad said, "Haley worked very hard this week to solve a family problem that could have become much worse." He handed her the microphone from the small speaker system. There was no reason an anniversary party needed a microphone. Haley had brought it for the toast. She stood beside the cake with one hand on Mom's shoulder. At the risk of embarrassing Natalie, she said, "I think Dad is giving me too much credit." People looked toward me. Haley gave a modest little shrug. Real estate paperwork can be confusing, even for someone good with numbers. A few weeks ago, a family loan document got recorded against Natalie's house. It delayed her closing. An agent named Renee said, "Oh no." Haley smiled. "It sounds worse than it was. There was a misunderstanding about how the security deed would be handled. Natalie got worried, which I completely understand." I did not move. She continued, "Mom and Dad were only trying to keep a private loan within the family. Nobody was taking anything from anyone." I stepped in, spoke to the right people, and helped untangle the paperwork mix-up. Dad lifted his glass toward her. Haley looked directly at 2 former clients. That's the value of having an experienced broker in the family. A few people laughed. Mom stared at the cake. Emily slipped away toward the side gate. Haley still had the microphone. "I just wish Natalie had called me first. We could have avoided a lot of stress and some unnecessary accusations." That was the full version she had chosen. She had turned the forgery into my confusion. She had turned the payoff into a private loan. She had turned my refusal to surrender $85,000 into an overreaction that her professional skill had corrected. I waited until the small wave of sympathetic laughter ended. Then I stood. "Haley, can you explain exactly what the mix-up was?" She lowered the microphone. "This probably isn't the time." "You brought it up." Dad said, "Natalie." I didn't look at him. Haley gave me a patient smile. "It was a family security deed. The recording created a title issue because you didn't understand how the payoff would appear." "Who signed the deed?" The smile remained. "You did." Mom closed her eyes. I asked, "Where did I sign it?" "At Mom and Dad's house." "And you were there?" "Yes." "Mom and Dad, too?" Haley glanced at them. "Of course. They were the lenders." Dad's face had turned red. I said, "So, your position is that I appeared at their house, signed the security deed in front of a notary, and then forgot about it. You didn't forget. You changed your mind after the document was recorded." A murmur moved through the nearest tables. I kept my voice level. Did you arrange the notary appointment? I helped coordinate it. Did you review the deed? Yes. Did Mom and Dad witness the signing? Haley's grip tightened around the microphone. Yes. Did you pay the notary? Yes, because you didn't have cash. And you're saying all of this happened with my permission? Yes. I looked toward Dad. Is that your position too? He hesitated. Haley answered for him. It's what happened. Do you want everyone here to understand that? She lifted the microphone again. I have nothing to hide. I walked to the gift table and removed the blue folder from the bag. The room stayed quiet as I placed the folder beside the cake. I removed the certified journal copy first. This is the signing record kept by Austin Figueroa, the notary Haley hired. Haley's face changed. She looked toward the side gate just as Emily walked through it with Austin. Dad said, "What is he doing here?" Austin stopped beside me. I was asked to confirm my business record. Haley lowered the microphone. You can't discuss a private signing at a party. Austin said, the person whose identity was used asked me to attend. I placed the journal page on the table. I pointed to the first witness line. Austin, whose signature is this? He leaned over the page. Haley Schmidt. The next, John Lawrence. And the third, Deborah Lawrence. Mom covered her mouth. I asked, did all three people sign your journal in front of you? Yes. Did another woman sign my name? Yes. Did she use my old driver's license? Yes. Did you take her thumbprint? Yes. Haley said, that proves nothing. Natalie agreed to the loan. I placed Stephen's report beside the journal. This compares the journal print to the fingerprint record from my CPA licensing background check. It also compares it to a new print taken this week. Renee stepped closer to read. I said, the examiner excluded me as the person who made the journal print. Haley looked at Dad. He didn't help her. She said, a fingerprint report can be challenged. It can. My hotel receipt, conference badge, and attendance scans can also be checked. I was 250 miles away. Mom sat down in the nearest chair. Haley pointed at Austin. He accepted the identification. If there was an error, that's on him. Austin's voice remained calm. I accepted the identification because 3 people in the room addressed the signer as Natalie. You reviewed the deed. You paid my fee. You collected every copy before I left. One of Haley's agents asked, why would you do that? Haley ignored him. I removed Laura's statement. This is from your transaction coordinator. Haley stared at the signature. What did you do to Laura? Nothing. She preserved the appointment you told her to schedule. I read the relevant sentence. At Haley Schmidt's direction, I scheduled Mr. Figueroa to the Lawrence house for a security deed signing in Natalie Lawrence's name. Then I placed the trust account worksheet on the table. Laura also preserved this. Dad said, that's business paperwork. It has no place here. It explains why my house was used. Haley reached for the page. I moved it away. Your brokerage trust account was short $85,000. The commission audit was approaching. After I refused to lend you that amount, you created a lien so Craig would pay Mom and Dad from my sale proceeds. They would send the money to your brokerage. That's a lie. Is Lawrence payoff before audit your handwriting? She didn't answer. I looked at Mom. Did I sign that deed? Mom began crying quietly. Dad said, Deborah, don't. She lowered her hands. No, she said. Haley turned toward her. Mom. Mom shook her head. Natalie wasn't there. Dad gripped the back of her chair. You're confused. I'm not confused. She looked at me. Your father and I signed as witnesses. Haley told us you had already agreed to it. I asked, you watched another woman use my name? Mom nodded. Haley said it was temporary. She said the house was selling anyway and you'd get most of the money. Did you know I refused? Not at first. When did you learn? At dinner in March. You were sitting there when I said no. Mom looked down. Yes. Dad said, we were trying to keep Haley's business from collapsing. With my house. You weren't going to lose the house. You were selling it. I looked at him. That was never your decision. Haley set the microphone on the cake table. This is disgusting, she said. You planned this humiliation. No, you planned the party. You invited the people. Several of her clients looked away from her. Renee picked up her purse and left without saying goodbye. Haley followed a minute later. She didn't wait for the cake to be cut. Dad remained beside Mom's chair. He said, "You've destroyed your sister." I returned the documents to the folder. No, I documented her. The lien had already been dealt with before the party. My sworn affidavit of forgery was recorded, and Craig's title underwriter had approved the sale without paying the false debt. Haley couldn't withdraw the proof because she had never controlled it. The closing happened 4 days later. Craig reviewed every line of the settlement statement with me. The false $85,000 payoff was gone. I signed the real deed with my current license on the table. The notary watched me sign. No one else answered for me. The buyers received clear title. I kept the full proceeds due to me after the legitimate mortgage payoff, taxes, fees, and commission. They told me they wanted to restore the garden, not replace it with a pool. That mattered more than I expected. Craig sent Austin's journal record, Stephen's report, and Laura's statement to the Georgia Real Estate Commission and the district attorney's office. The commission opened a licensing review into Haley's conduct and the brokerage trust account. The forgery review remained separate. Haley had to replace the entire $85,000 shortage with her own funds. Doing that did not erase what she had done. It prevented the trust account matter from creating an additional immediate criminal referral, while the commission decided what action to take against her license. Her referring agents learned why the audit existed. Several stopped sending her clients. Laura resigned and cooperated with the review. Austin changed his identification procedure. He began requiring a second independent identity check for family property signings. His journal remained secured with his attorney while the investigation continued. Dad left me one voicemail. "You got what you wanted," he said. "I hope the house was worth the family. I saved it with the others and never returned the call." Haley sent emails through 3 different addresses. The first blamed Austin. The second blamed our parents. The third said she had only borrowed the trust money and intended to replace it. I forwarded each message to Craig. I did not answer her. Mom waited almost 2 months before calling. When her name appeared on my phone, I nearly let it go to voicemail. Then I answered. She said, "I don't expect you to forgive me." "That's good." I knew it was wrong, yes. I kept telling myself you'd still have enough money. That wasn't yours to decide. I know, she cried, but she didn't ask me to comfort her. After a while, she said, "Could I call again sometime?" "You can call. Don't ask me to speak to Dad or Haley." "I won't." That was the only relationship I left slightly open. Mom calls every few weeks now. Some conversations last 5 minutes, some last less. I don't visit the house, and she doesn't call what happened a misunderstanding anymore. The buyers sent me a photograph several months after closing. They had cleaned the brick path and replanted the empty beds. Grandma's camellias were still against the wall. I printed the picture and placed it in the keepsake box beside her letter. The house was never proof that my family loved me. It was proof that Grandma knew who would take care of what she left behind. When the time came, taking care of it meant selling it without letting them steal from it. If you want more stories like mine, subscribe and tell me which city you're watching from.